So you never wanted kids before you met me?
Absolutely not. That was not in the cards for me. That was not my path. That was not my journey. That was not for me ever. And I remember knowing that at a very young age. Hi, everybody. I'm Eden.
And I'm Jay.
And welcome to EdenxJay, Unfiltered, the podcast where we have created a safe and sexy space to have unfiltered conversations.
We might we might be the same sex, but we have different opinions.
And if you haven't yet, I don't know why you haven't, go follow us on social at EdenxJay, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, everything. There's a lot of fun, crazy, wild, sexy, scary things happening over there as well. So
Also, stay until the end because we have some exciting news.
that's all you're going to tease them?
Yes,
exciting.
It's super exciting.
I know.
It involves the city of LA and us.
My goodness.
Dun, dun, dun.
You've been waiting. Like, Jay has been itching to break this news to you all. So definitely don't miss it because she's really, really excited about this new project.
I'm ready.
I'm a little terrified, but we're going to be fine. I think that's just like my saying. We're going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
We're like that meme with the dog.
Oh,
and
everything's on fire?
The flaming house.
Yeah, we're going to be fine. Well, welcome back to our podcast. For those of you who are listening and for those of you who are watching this beautiful podcast space, we're super excited to be here and be back. This episode, honestly, we tend to try to keep these episodes going with what's naturally going in our life at the moment. And we had some unfortunate news. Our last appointment that we had at our fertility doctor. We'll get into those, what happened and those results, but I feel like fertility is such a big conversation that not a lot of women are talking about and talking about openly.
Yeah.
And so we figured since this is unfiltered and we need to create some safe space to be able to have these types of conversations in our journey. And thank you for all of you who've been following along with it. And we do know that there are people who are new here. The journey was wild and it was rough.
It still is.
It still is. It's still going. What do you mean it was? It's still going.
Yeah.
And I feel like I think we should create some safe space to be able to talk about it and talk about our journey.
Yes, and this might be a 2-part
Oh, yeah.
episode. So we will start from the very beginning because F is for fertility, and we are in February. So
How cute. Fertility February.
Yes.
I love it. We're going to coin it that now. It's Fertility February, y'all. I love, like, it's crazy thinking back, right? Like, having to go all the way back. We've come so far, and we're still, I feel like, only halfway there. But the reason why we also want to make this a 2-part series is because there's so much information that we have learned going into making a baby, you know, and getting control of our fertility and figuring out where we stand. So we figured we would break it up into 2 sections. Part 1 is basically everything up into leading into IVF. And then part 2 will be specifically
to where we're at
now with IVF. So
Perfect. So let's kick it off.
buckle up, babies and baby makers.
Yeah. So let's start from the very beginning.
Yes.
I'll ask you first.
Oh, you can ask me. Okay. I love the dominance over here.
Yeah. I'm working on it as a Pisces.
Okay.
When did you know you wanted kids?
When did I know I wanted kids?
Yeah.
With you.
Really?
Yeah, with you.
So you never wanted kids before you met me?
Absolutely not. That was not in the cards for me. That was not my path. That was not my journey. That was not for me ever. And I remember knowing that at a very young age. I remember other girls in my class in high school and junior high and stuff, and they were like, oh, I can't wait to be a mom, or I'm looking forward to that time. That was just never a feeling that I ever had. And personally, I just felt like, I don't know, I wanted to be just this hot supermodel, the rich aunt that would come every Christmas and spoil my nieces and nephews and cousins
and then
stuff.
bounce
And then leave and then go be in Bali somewhere. You know, that was my journey. That was my life.
Wow, we've come a long way.
I know. And it was, I think the hardest part is I was so, as a Gemini, and we've kind of talked about this, I'm very stubborn. And I was very stubborn with my mom. And like we would bump heads on this a lot. My dad, not so much, because he was like, cool, you never want to get married and have kids? I'm down with being the only man in your life. You know, like I don't have to worry about any other guy. And I was like, yeah, never. Like that's just not for me. And then my mom, like she really had this idea, I think she was holding on to ever since I was born, of like the perfect wedding and the, you know, the baby dreams. And so when I told her that, you know, I was gay and that having kids is just not in the cards for me ever and getting married is not in the cards for me ever, I think that really broke her heart more than the gay thing. I think she just really had to process a lot of loss in that moment. And I could have eased her into it, but I think I just ripped the Band-Aid off of everywhere of how I felt. And I understand now why she was so hurt and sad for a long time. And I empathize with that. And I think the hardest thing for me to really realize is when she died and when she got cancer, one of the last things she told me was, I'm okay with you never having kids and never wanting to get married. And she accepted that.
Right.
And I think I waited so long for her acceptance. And I think the only reason why I get teary-eyed is because like it made me happy in the moment because that's all I wanted from her. But I just wish she was here so I can tell her that she was right and I was wrong. And I never like to admit that I'm wrong because I'm a Gemini.
But she's also watching from wherever she's at.
Yeah, I know.
So it's not like she doesn't know.
She, you know, she knows. I feel like 100% that she sent you into my life. And I think that's what makes her death easier, right? Is knowing that if I had her, I wouldn't have you. So no matter how much I want her back, I can't change that part of my life and my journey, and that makes accepting it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And you know, I think life takes things away from you to give you something greater, and you don't see that in the moment when it's hard. And I have a great opportunity because my whole life changed. My idea of marriage changed because I couldn't wait to get married to you. My idea of kids changed because now I'm excited and we're going through this whole journey and hoops and all that stuff with kids. And there's nobody in this world I'd want to be doing this with other than you. And it's been a roller coaster, and I feel like we just got started. But I mean, that was a very long-winded way of saying a you. It made me change my mind because I was very stubborn and not wanting that journey for me. So what about you?
I feel like we need to process. You feeling okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I feel great. I mean, these aren't sad tears.
Yeah,
you know, they're really. I'm happy to be wrong. You know what I mean? Like I'm processing that. You know, she's not going to be here, and I think that's the hardest part. Is that the moments of us like planning our wedding, and the moments that I wish I could go to her to ask questions about. You know, things that I don't know as a mom. You know, like. What does this mean? Like, what happens if their poop is this color? Or like, what do I do if this happens? What if they swallow something? Like, do I have to do a tracheotomy on the spot? Like, I don't, you know, I'm going to have all these questions, and I never imagined a world where I wouldn't have her to be able to ask those questions. And, you know, I think that's just the only sad part. But it's not like she's not here, because I do have, you know, I do feel like she's just.
I feel like she's up in the universe just chilling with our future kids.
Yeah.
Like waiting for them to drop.
Right? She's just hanging out. And, you know, I think she's having the best time with, you know, their spirit. And, you know, when that time comes when she has to give them away, it's crazy. I had a weird dream. And I think I don't really dream a lot about my mom. But when I do, I always feel like it's a little extra special. And there was a moment where I was mad at her for something. Like, we bumped heads a lot. And we were in the hospital, and she took the baby in a car seat and left. And I was like so upset with her, and I finally found her, and she put the baby down, and it was a him. It was so strange. It was a baby boy, and she put the car seat down, and she said, it's your turn now. Like, I've had so much fun hanging out with him, but it's time for me to give him to you now. And you're going to be
Wow.
fine. And I remember her saying, like, you're going to be fine. And then she rode off into the sunset in this, like, really cool classic car with Paul, her spouse of 20 years,
Yeah.
because
He just recently passed away.
he also died of cancer. I lost my mom and my stepdad within a year of each other, but I
Right.
truly believe, like, he died of a broken heart because being without her was too hard.
Right.
And I lost both of them to cancer, and, like, it was really cool to see them, like, ride off in this, like, classic car, and she had beautiful hair, and it was just, like, this amazing moment, and it makes it easier when I feel lost or when
Yeah.
I feel, like, a little bit scared to do this without her, because, like you said, like, I'm not doing it without her.
You're not. And we have chosen family.
That part.
So I feel like everybody's going to step up and help as they can, you know?
There's so many questions. I'm such a data person.
Yeah, you are.
But enough about me. What about you?
I think I'm the complete opposite. I knew I wanted to be a parent early on. I kind of had those early,
Those feelings? Can't relate.
fantasies of wanting to raise a child and wanting to have like a happy ending. But for me, it was never, I need like the perfect partner. I just knew I wanted to be a parent with or
Yeah.
without someone.
Yeah.
And I knew that when that time came, if I had a partner, great. But if I didn't, I would still be a good parent.
Yeah.
So the idea of having two parents was never like, oh, it needs to happen this way for me to start my family.
I'm so curious because growing up with your mom was so intense.
Mhm.
Like, how did you know that you wanted to do that journey as well, even though
I had
that
the
very
craziest upbringing.
toxic Latin dynamic was strong?
Yeah.
Like, I can't say that I would feel the same if I was in your shoes. So I'm just curious.
I think that's a great question. I had one of the worst upbringings, as you know. I was sent away for being gay when I was 15, across country to live with like my dad, who I hadn't seen since I was 7. So that was like not only a culture shock, but just an overall shock in general. And I, till this day, I don't talk to my mom. So it's not the best relationship. But I think for me, it's the fact that I had not the best mom and I turned out all right.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine how amazing our kid will grow up to be with two pretty awesome parents.
Oh.
And I think that's what keeps me motivated, is that, and why I want, to start our family, is because we need better people in this world. And if I can bring one more, why not? You know?
I feel like our kid's going to change the world, but I'm just biased.
I hope so.
We're going to be those parents.
Cut to like
I
10
know.
years from now. We're like, damn, this guy's crazy.
And all the best, in all the best ways, I hope. Changes the world for the positive. But, this journey that we've been on, if we have to take it all the way back to the beginning, when do you think was the pivotal moment when we decided, okay, we should have this conversation and we should start having this conversation?
I think for us, we started having the conversation of kids like right after the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I think the pandemic really put a lot of things into perspective.
Yeah.
Like we eloped, we bought a house instead. We tried to set ourselves up for financial freedom and kind of break that cycle as well, and start having our own future.
Yeah.
But I think that once the pandemic happened, everything switched.
Yeah.
So for me, I had never thought about, it's crazy because when I think about fertility, I always assumed that I would just be ready to go when I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe whenever we were financially and like capable and like we had the time to, I would just pop out a baby. Like I was so naive to think.
You know how many people say like, oh, there's never a perfect time to have a baby?
Yeah.
I feel like.
No, yeah, totally.
That was a very naive wish list for you to have, but I love it.
I know, but I think once I realized that we should start this process and we looked into it, I realized how insane the process is and how much time, money, effort, research it takes and how many options you have.
I think I wish it was a little bit more romantic how we came to this decision, because I I think I remember. I'm gonna go back in my phone. I think I took a note, right?
Probably.
I think I asked you, what are your future goals and what do you want in the next 2, 5, 10 years? And then you said you wanted kids. You did say you wanted to be married. And I was like, okay, mathematically, I think here's the right timeline.
I remember this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
you sent
I
me a
was
text of, okay, cool. If this is what you want, these are the years and the goals that we have to hit. And this was like 5 dates into this,
Yeah,
you
it was
guys. It wasn't
very
anything.
early on. I think I was still unpacking my U-Haul when I was
Mhm.
like, cool, what's your plan? What do you want? And then you're like, okay, I want kids. I want to get married. I want to buy a house. I'm like, okay, if we get married, it's going to be between year 1 and 2. If we have kids, it's between year 3 and 4. And if we buy a house, it's year 5. And then I think you rearranged some things.
I did because I said I don't want to raise kids in an apartment. So
Mhm.
we need
We
to
need to
move the house up
and then move things
and then
around.
move it down one. Yeah.
It wasn't very romantic, but I had a blueprint and
Mhm.
and a rough timeline for when you wanted to make this happen. And I'm very much a numbers person, so I
Yeah.
think I went heavy into research. How long does the process of doing IVF take, or for
Mhm.
2 gay women to have babies, like roughly take? And it takes about like, and I remember the estimate being around like 2 to like, could be like 6 to 8 years or something like that. Like
Depending on where you are.
depending on where you are, what your plan is, and all that stuff.
But
And I
that's
was
why I
like,
love you. You're so type A.
"Aw."
I'm just the dreamer. I'm like, I just want the kids. So that's all I want.
I'm
And
like,
you're like, well, in order to do
"Cool."
the kids, we need to do A, B, C through Z, and then we'll have the kids.
Here's the map, and this is what we
Yeah.
need to follow to get there. And I was like, okay, you want to have a baby? Like, this is how it has to happen. So I think the timeline was about 2 to 3 years.
Mhm.
So I was trying to do the math. I was like, so that means we need to start now
Yeah.
in order to hit that 2 or 3 year mark, not start in 2 or 3 years. You got to
Right.
start now because it'll take us 2 to 3 years to get there. And then I think I started crunching the numbers about how much it was going to cost.
Which is not cheap, y'all.
I think Google was like estimating a minimum of 20 to upwards of $20,000.
Yeah,
or something
total.
like
All
that.
in.
And I was like, okay, so I need to make more money. I need to quit my job. I
Mhm.
need to like move things along. And I think in 6 months, I went from making, I don't know, like 65 to 70,000 a year to like 6
I think
figures.
you made less than that.
I made
I think
very
you were
little.
like at 50
I
to
w-
high 60s when we met.
I was in like the entertainment industry,
Yeah.
but I was comfortable. I think it was just me.
Yeah.
I didn't need a lot.
You and your bunny.
Me and my bunny, she ate very little. I didn't eat very much too because it was just coffee at that time for
And
me.
microwave dinners.
And microwave dinners. I didn't have the good life and the good meals then. But it was like enough. And then when I met you, I really took a big look at my life. I was like, this isn't good enough for you. I need to step it up. Like, I need to be the wife and the mother and the person that you need if you want all these things. So that's what I did. I was like, quick, this is now my life plan. I need to make 6 figures. I need to do this. I need to do that. So I put my things in motions and changed what
Right.
I needed to. And then with the baby planning process, I kind of took an overhead look, and I was like, okay, I don't know if realistically coming up with $20,000 all up front is going to be realistic for our timeline. What if we broke it up, right?
Right.
What if we broke it up into segments? And what if we started with the sperm donor
Mhm.
and finding a
first year.
sperm donor, and that would kind of cost us roughly,
It really depends. When it
depending
comes
where
to
you
a
go.
donor, it varies.
Yeah.
It can start at like $500
Mhm.
a vial all the way
Yeah.
up to $2,500 a
Yeah.
vial. It really depends on what the qualities that you're looking
Mhm.
for, what donor company you go
Yeah.
through, fertility company.
How many you
How many
need.
do you actually need?
So it was still gonna be expensive though. It was still gonna be upwards of like $5,000 maybe.
Yeah.
We were looking at that. So I was like, okay, let's break it up. Let's do a sperm donor and let's check our fertility.
The
Like
first year.
status. Like, let's start there. Do we have time? Are we good? Can we like kick back a little bit? Or is the doctor gonna be like yesterday,
You were supposed to
get
have
on
baby, yeah.
this. Like, hurry up. You are not fertile myrtle. Like, you're dried up, you know?
Right.
So we were just kind of shooting in the dark and we didn't know what direction. So at least like let's have a plan.
Right.
And I just wanted a plan. I wanted the doctors to give us some data so they can tell us where we stand in
Right.
our fertility journey, while also simultaneously looking for sperm.
And let me tell you, looking for a sperm was not easy because, like this podcast, we had very different opinions when it came to what our sperm donor needed to be, look like, and
Please share with the audience what was your criteria, because just so y'all know, it took us 6 months.
yeah.
6 months to agree on a sperm donor.
Yes.
And then I think another couple months to find said sperm donor.
Yes. Yes, I'll start off with my qualifications. Okay. What I cared most about was that their health was clean. So there was no cancerous, diabetes, heart issues. I really cared about the history of their health. And the second thing that that was very important was I wanted curly hair.
That's
Because
it?
I have curly hair.
Yeah.
And I really wanted the baby to also have curly hair.
Okay. So
Those were my only two.
no genetic mutations and curly
Which I think is
hair.
very important. I
Okay.
could have dropped the curly hair, I guess. We could have talked about it, but those were my two.
Did you end up dropping the curly
No,
hair? Nope.
definitely not.
Exactly. We had to find a donor
Because
with curly hair.
because Eden came through with this laundry list of requirements.
I mean, if I'm going to pay for it, it might as well be what I want.
Please tell the audience what you wanted in your donor.
Okay, it wasn't like a crazy. I also cared about no cancers, no diabetes, none of that. I just wanted them to be an athlete because I was an athlete back in the day. Not like a crazy. I ran in a circle.
What?
I did
You
track.
did really well. You got a scholarship for running.
A partial scholarship. Not that crazy.
That's a lot.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I did used to run, and I really loved being a part of a team and having that sportsman experience. And I really would love to be that type of mom too. I would love to do athletic things with our kids and run and all that stuff. So athlete was one of them. And then I really wanted somebody 6 foot or taller.
So no short kings here.
There's nothing wrong with the short king. And the odds of it working, it still isn't 100%. But I was just saying I wish I was taller, and I just want to give them the opportunity. And I read, there was a scientific article that I read that tall people tend to be more successful or get paid more in corporate jobs because you physically have to look up to them. And so they just generate respect by default. So I just wanted to give them the most uplift in. Wow. Okay. But it wasn't mandatory. If we found one that was shorter than 6 foot, I still would have been down.
No, she wouldn't have been. And she wasn't down because our donor is 6'2"?
6'4".
6'4", if that tells you anything about her requirements. But I also wanted, when you came up with your height requirement, it really made me think because I'm 5'2", and I'm the one that's going first. So I can't imagine, he's going to be 3 and, already taller than me.
Yeah, probably.
Or she. They will be way taller than me at 3 years.
Yeah, but then they can reach stuff off the top shelf for us by
I guess.
8.
Let's go with more of your qualifications.
No, I think those were my major ones.
You're missing some.
I am?
Colored eyes.
Oh, that didn't have
dimples.
to be. That was just if it was there.
I love how nonchalant she is now.
I have dimples, and my family has colored eyes. So I was oh, that would be cool. Not mandatory. But we got really lucky. I wouldn't say really lucky. It was really freaking hard. Yeah. And it really wasn't the superficial, nitpicky things about their sperm donor. It was finding somebody that was clear of
everything.
Diseases, cancers, and mutations in their DNA. It was really hard.
We went through 4 different donor companies as far as Denmark.
Oh yeah, we were going to go to Sweden, Denmark. We felt like we were running out of options. We were just never going to find him, the donor, and we were really struggling out there until California Cryobank. Yeah, we ended up reaching out to them and finding out more about their criteria and their safety for not only the people purchasing the sperm, but the sperm donors themselves. And I think you were really obsessed with their feature of the celebrity lookalike.
Yes. So if you go on California Cryobank, it's like Tinder. You jump in and they have celebrity lookalikes with the sperm donor and what they look like when they were kids or as adults.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to swipe through and see, like, do you want a Ryan Gosling or do you want
What did you
Jason
say?
Momoa? Like,
Yes. I was like, no, I do not want a Jason Momoa, but I appreciate it. It was a really cool
and I
feature.
also loved their acceptance rate. It was harder for donors to get into California Cryobank
Oh,
than
yeah.
you get into Harvard.
Yeah.
Like they
The
have,
acceptance rate was
yeah,
so
it's
low.
insane. So I think that made me feel a lot better.
Yeah.
And they had this really cool feature where the donor could leave an item of their choice, whether
Oh,
that's like a
yeah.
letter or a craft or something that they do
Mhm.
to give to the child once the child is born. So it's
Yeah.
like
There
like a
was
keepsake.
there was one that was really cool. It was a watchmaker. He
Yeah.
was a contender, but I think he ended up selling out before we
Yes.
pulled the trigger,
Which is another thing
unfortunately.
we're going to talk about.
He was a watchmaker, and I think he left a watch for confirmed pregnancies.
Yeah,
and
which I thought that was
really
so cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was another thing. Whenever we would find a donor, we would talk about it that night over dinner, and that morning when we were ready to pull the plug, it was done.
Gone.
Sold out completely.
And it was so disheartening because then we realized once you find someone, you have to make the choice. Yeah, right there and buy it and go, because by the time you look the next morning, it'll be gone.
Yeah.
And we kept, one, striking out, and two, it was really, again, hard to find somebody with no cancers in the background, because like with my history and my family, I didn't want to run the risk. And the superficial stuff, I think, went out the window at a certain point. We were like, let's just have a healthy baby.
Yeah.
Like at this freaking point, we're so mentally exhausted and emotionally exhausted of getting. It
We
felt like
kept
we were
falling
buying
in
a
love.
house.
Yeah, we kept. It's like, yeah, when you buy a
You
house,
buy a house and then you
fall
put
out
in
of
an
escrow.
offer, and then you get denied. Like they choose somebody else, or like somebody else bought it before you did, and it was just so disheartening. We would
Yeah.
fall in love and we're like imagining this thing, and then find out that it was gone. They
Yeah.
were all sold out. And then I think one night, because we started swiping more on sperm donors than we were on Instagram at a certain point. And
Yeah.
it was like in the middle of the night, you were cooking dinner. We were just like, okay, like 3 more swipes. And you found him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we took
Right
out
there,
that credit
pull out the
card real
card,
fast.
like so fast, because on his profile it said limited supply.
Yep.
And was retired. And he met all of their requirements. Like it was just magic.
Yep. He was an athlete.
He was an
He
athlete.
had curly hair.
Curly hair.
He was your height.
It was my height. No medical history. Him, his family, completely clean. And it was just, instantly fell in love with his profile. Like hearing his story, hearing his interview, like the type of person that he is. And he already has 2 daughters, which is really cool. And then talking about how they are and how they naturally were athletes growing up, and they just gravitated towards gymnastics. And I just thought that was so cool.
That was another cool feature from the California Cryobank, was that the donor left a really lengthy questionnaire where the interviewer would ask, what's your favorite memory growing up, and what was your college experience like, or tell me, what kind of person you are. And it was really cool to read about him.
Yeah. It was
He
cool to read.
seemed like a guy that we would be friends with now.
Yeah. He seemed like somebody that was more balanced.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things I remember reading about our donor is that he just seemed like very calm. Like when we heard about his interview voice, he just seemed very chill and very calm. I was like, wow, that is the opposite of us. Like I hope like, because I don't want another one of us, because I feel like if we are a family of just instant hypers, like there's no one bringing us down. We're all just gonna lift each other up, and then I don't know, set something on fire. So we need some calmness in our life. So I was like, wow, that's the opposite of us. Yes, like perfect. Take my credit card. Like let's just go and like get all of his sperm. And
so we locked that in.
We locked him in. We were so happy.
And then he went straight to our hospital.
Yes.
To our doctor's office to figure out how we can get checked.
And I think this was pandemic time. This was like deep 2020. And you and I both tried to get an appointment to get our fertility check, because we have Kaiser. and we were trying to figure out, okay, where do we stand?
Mhm.
And I think I was impatient.
Very.
And I was like, I don't care. First available doctor, guy, girl, doesn't matter. Like, give me
You
who's.
just want your numbers.
I just want to figure this out.
And I'm the complete opposite. When it comes to doctors,
Mhm.
I always look for the person of color in network, always. And if that means having a 6-month wait for that
Yeah.
doctor, I will wait, because I do think that there's a big difference when it
Mhm.
comes to just doctors in general and knowing how to take care of people. I
Yeah.
feel a lot better,
Mhm.
and I feel like I'm taken care of a certain way when it comes to a person of color.
Yeah. And I wish I could tell you that you were wrong. I mean, I don't wish. I mean, what happened happened. There's
Yeah.
just no denying what went down.
So we both went in for our
Yes.
doctor appointment.
You did have to wait, I think, 3 months
Yeah.
for your appointment, and I just took whoever was available.
Right.
Ended up being some white lady. And I mean,
Yep.
it is what it is. And I went in, I told her, you know, I'm trying to start my fertility journey. I would like to get my follicles checked and my HSG test.
Right.
An HSG test, basically, the way I understand it, it's to check if your body's able to carry a baby. They call it the balloon test. Shove a balloon up, kind of, and blow it up, and then see if it's strong enough to hold a baby. And not a fun test, I'll let you know that right now, but necessary. And then
Hormone levels as
and
well.
check your hormone levels and to see where you're at for your age. Are you low, which means that could be pretty risky as far as egg count, or are you average, or are you high? You
Yeah.
got some time. And these are all tests that you can ask if you have health insurance, depending on your health insurance, that you can ask for, if you're having infertility issues. And the criteria for having infertility issues is you just have to try for a year and be unsuccessful about getting pregnant, and that technically is covered.
Correct.
So we have been trying for a year and have been unsuccessful about making a baby. So technically we should fall under that bracket.
Right.
And we're also married, and you were under my health insurance. And so I went to the doctor. I told her, again, have been trying for a year, unsuccessful, write me the slip. And she was like, okay, well, has your husband gotten his sperm count checked and blah, blah, blah. I said, not husband, wife, I'm married. And she denied me.
Yeah.
And she denied my order form. And she
you
said, like,
need to
you
bring
need to have a husband. And I was like, that was never stated in any form, in any policy. Like, gay people try to have babies as well. So you're saying, like, only straight people can get infertility treatment covered.
Yes.
And that's basically what she was saying. And I was so upset, and I walked out of there, and I told her, like, they can't help us. I'm going to have to try to find a different way. And then you had your appointment still.
And then I went to my beautiful doctor.
Yeah.
She was amazing. And I walked in and I immediately said, my wife and I are trying to have a kid. I need to do my testing. And
Mhm.
she looked at me and she's like, okay, I can get you your testing, but I need to write up a different code so it looks like you've been trying, but I can't write that you're infertile because you don't have a male partner. But this
Mhm.
is the loophole that we're going to do so you can get your testing. And
Mhm.
I swear it's because she's a woman of color and she
Yeah.
understood the struggle and she was just willing to help.
Yeah. The doctor I had could have easily had said and done the same
Sure.
thing, but chose not to.
Cis white women.
And then your doctor, I can't say what I can't say. It is the facts are the facts, and I'm so grateful that you
Yeah.
stuck it out and waited and went with your doctor.
Yeah.
And
And then I was
she gave
able
us
to
this
give you the code. So then you were able to call
Mhm.
Kaiser and literally she just said the code
Yeah.
and they couldn't deny you
Nope.
your test either.
And
So
it's just so infuriating to have to go through these back doors and these side windows in order to get the same treatment as anyone else. And it was extremely unfair. And not only that, that was just the beginning. It was like the warm-up appetizer for the uncomfortability that was going to
Yes.
happen the rest of this experience,
Yes.
which was, again, it was COVID, so we had to go separate. They would never let us go together.
Yep.
And sure enough, we got our appointments in. And then it was constantly having to come out every
Yeah.
single time to every single doctor because
Every form.
not everyone knows about this code.
Right.
And so they just automatically assume that we're married to a man.
Yeah.
So when you go in, it's always,
Where's
where's your husband? your husband how is he doing? Same thing when I call the doctor. How's your husband? Is your husband coming with you? Is your husband going to be on the phone?
Mhm.
No husband. Constantly. Before they even say hi, hello, it's just like, oh, will your husband be joining you? And it's just this innate insensitivity and just completely makes us feel, one, that we have to constantly come out for no reason to our medical physicians, and that there's just this insensitivity within Kaiser and their fertility system that isn't built for us. It's very obvious that we're not supposed to be here.
Right.
And you could do a little bit better about hiding it at least, or being, it's 2023, be a little bit more inclusive.
Yeah.
Don't use he, she, like use they and them. Our trans friends are also starting a baby and they're non-binary. Like, to have to imagine with them still being misgendered and
Mhm.
identified within their own fertility journey, because we're going through that and
Yeah.
we're obviously femme presenting, but we're still in the same sex relationship.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like there's this inclusivity in this space for queer people and queer people of color to get the help that we need, that makes it feel like people are genuinely there to help us.
And I will
And
say, if we weren't the
Mhm.
people that we are, I can see why a same-sex couple would stop
Yeah.
halfway through. It's just so much emotional, I don't know, agony to carry through this entire process that's already hard.
Mhm.
It just makes it harder.
And that time the doctor didn't tell you
Oh, that was
needed
horrible.
the
I have a
HSG
story.
test.
I went to my HSG test appointment
Took us
and
6 months to get. Everything took 6 months. 6 months to get an
yes.
appointment, 6 months to get another appointment.
Yep, and I showed up and I signed my release forms. I got into my little like night
Scrubs.
scrubs, ready to go. I was already like prepping because it wasn't going to be a comfortable test. And the nurse comes in and she's like, "I see on your file that you didn't take a pregnancy test." And I said, "No, nobody told me to take a pregnancy test. And I'm married to my wife. I'm in a same-sex marriage. I don't think you would need I would need a pregnancy test." And her automatic response was, "Well, I can't do the test without a negative pregnancy test."
Mhm.
And I said, "It's physically impossible for me to be pregnant right now. Like science, the math isn't mathing.
Yeah.
And I promise you I'm not pregnant." And we just had this dance back and forth for a good 20 minutes.
Mhm.
And she said, "You're going to have to reschedule this appointment because we can't do it without this pregnancy test. I don't feel comfortable testing you without knowing that you aren't pregnant." Granted, I
Yeah.
waited 3 months for this test. So I
Mhm.
wasn't going to leave that room without the HSG test. And we got into
Yeah.
this huge fight. I said, "I'm not going to leave this room. You can call security. I'm going to take this test. I am not pregnant. I'm authorizing you to give me this test because I know I'm not pregnant.
Mhm.
I'm married to a woman. It doesn't make any sense." And she ended up bringing the doctor in. And I was in tears
Mhm.
telling the doctor like how uncomfortable this is, the fact that I have to even state my sexuality during this entire appointment is ridiculous and I'm not pregnant. And I think she realized it was,
Yeah.
I needed this test, so she approved it. She's like, I wouldn't do this, but because you're telling me that you're not pregnant, I'm just gonna take your word. But if you are, like, there's gonna be damage in the fetus. I'm like, "No, I'm here because I can't get pregnant. Like, let's just get it
This is the
going."
problem. This is why I'm
Yeah,
here.
it's like a catch-22.
But
And
I'm
then
so proud of you for standing your ground. And I know it's only because we were so emotionally
yeah,
exhausted of the insensitivity of people not taking our marriage seriously.
yeah,
And you just had it. You were like, I'm done. If they told you beforehand to take a pregnancy
I would
test,
have done
you
it.
would have done it
Fine.
100%. It wasn't about the test. It was just that you weren't informed about taking
Yes.
the test. Therefore, like,
I had to wait another 3 months.
waiting more time for appointments that we had already waited 6 months for, and all of these things. Like, we were just tired. We were
Yeah.
tired of waiting. We were tired of the back doors, and
Mhm.
you were like, I think at your wits'
I
end.
was.
You were like, call security. I'm
It's
not
like,
leaving.
I'm gonna be that crazy. I'm gonna be that crazy woman right now. I'm not leaving.
Karina.
Look under my hood.
Just tell me. But you did. You stood your
Yeah.
ground, and you got the test in. I think you had to sign a waiver saying like they
Yeah,
weren't
saying
responsible.
I'm not pregnant, so we
Yeah.
can do the test. And the test happened, and she tried to make light of it. And so she's under there checking, and she's like, "Nope, no baby in here." I'm like, "Yeah, I've only been preaching that for the last 50 minutes."
Aw, would have been surprising if there was.
I know, right? Shocker.
Virgin Mary over there.
That's why I'm wearing the Virgin Mary shirt.
The ultimate mother. But I'm really proud of you, and you stood your ground and you got your
Yeah.
test. No baby in there. And then
The test came
we
back.
got our results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was interesting.
Very.
My results, I'm slightly older than Eden, so my results were okay. They could have been a lot better, but the doctor said if you want to get pregnant, you have to start like soon, relatively soon.
Your HSG came back perfect.
Yeah.
Like the oven, phenomenal.
Yes.
I think our fertility doctor keeps complimenting how beautiful it is.
How beautiful my tree. What
Yeah,
does she calls the tree?
I think she calls it the tree and the leaves.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Cookies and the she always uses like cool analogies. But your foundation, phenomenal. It was
My egg
your
count.
follicle
Yeah.
count and your basically your hormone level was a bit low for your age.
Yeah.
And then I think again getting another appointment, I think it took another 6 months.
Yeah.
And within that 6-month time, your numbers had dropped
Significantly.
very drastically. And the doctor said you need to start now.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh shit, this wasn't a part of my timeline plan, but here we are. Like, good thing we already got the sperm
Mhm.
and that was locked in. And then we were like, okay, IVF time.
What does that even mean?
What does
What
that
is the
look
difference between
like?
IUI and IVF?
And there was so much that happened within our own fertility journey, and everything leading up to this moment, I think, really prepared us for IVF, even though, you know, we went through so many hoops of unexpected things that constantly kept coming up. So I think what we can hopefully do with our listeners in part 2 is guide them through what we learned on our journey, because there are a lot of different terminologies that we
Mhm.
learned. There's a lot of different lessons that we learned. And anybody looking to start IVF, we can hopefully break it down into the easiest way
Or IUI.
or IUI, just fertility journey in general, in a way that we've understood it. And this isn't a path for everyone. This is just our journey and our path and why we decided to do things this way. But yeah, I think that'll be a really good topic and conversation for part 2.
I didn't know the difference between IVF or IUI when we first started. And I think I should just talk about my journey with IVF since I
Yeah.
went first on part 2.
You are so brave.
Yes. Yes.
Don't let
That
the
was
tattoos
not-
fool you.
That was not a fun experience at all, but
Yeah.
it was totally worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to just share our knowledge.
Yeah,
With-
I think it'll be very helpful. But until we get to part 2, I guess we have some fun stuff that we're gonna tell people.
Yes.
I-
If you haven't seen it on our page
on.
yet. Hey!
I need to lighten the mood a little bit.
The city of LA, big city of LA, has reached out to us to throw a 1-day Preciosa Fest, which means in the summertime, on July 1st, we will take over Pershing Square, capacity of 5,000 people. Hey! And we get to throw this festival, which is amazing because I feel like this is our opportunity. Listen, as someone who grew up in the hood with no money, no opportunities whatsoever, to be approached by the city to throw a festival for me means a lot. That means I can showcase all of the queer talent, all
Yeah.
of the POC talent that's out there. We rarely get opportunities like this, so I'm
Yeah.
just excited that we get to curate and host this
Mhm.
amazing night.
We get to literally, design everything from front to back and throw an unforgettable night and put people at the forefront of that, wouldn't get the spotlight, like people like us, and we're really excited to share this opportunity with other members of our community.
Yes.
And this is going to be, just a once in a lifetime opportunity. We can't wait.
Eh.
So it's happening in the summer. Keep an eye out for Preciosa Fest 2023.
Yeah. And if you're a person of color who's an artist, an entrepreneur,
Small
a singer, a
business.
small business, a musician, please reach out to us in the DMs. We're looking for all the talent that we can
At
showcase.
EdenxJay.
Yeah. And we'll catch you at the next one.
Yeah, this is going to be a very exciting opportunity. And be sure to follow at EdenxJay because we're going to be giving all the updates on our pages, letting you guys know first about where you can buy tickets, how you
Yep.
could support, where you can sign up, because
Mhm,
this
mhm.
is as much as our opportunity as it is yours, and we're excited to bring it to the community.
And I just wanna show the city what we can do.
I know. I want to see what we can do. I've never done a festival before, y'all. So wish us luck. She definitely puts me to the test as far as what dreams I can make happen.
What is the saying? That your soulmate normally should push you to do things that you're
Yeah,
not,
there you
like, out of
go.
your comfort zone?
You do that as soon as you wake up.
And with that said, thank
Yeah.
you for joining us. We know
Thank
you could be
you.
anywhere else, but you decide to spend your 1 hour with us.
Yeah.